For 7 years, Amelia Whitmore waited for a man who never chose her. Then one morning, she received an invitation, not to her wedding, to his. The envelope trembled slightly in Amelia's hands as she stared at the elegant gold lettering embossed across the front. She already knew who it was from. She recognized the Ravenshire seal immediately. For one foolish second, her heart dared to hope. Perhaps after 7 years, Duke Nathaniel Ravenshire had finally made a decision. Perhaps after all the promises, after all the delays, after all the times he told her to be patient, he was finally ready. Amelia carefully broke the seal and unfolded the invitation. The words blurred instantly. Your Grace Duke Nathaniel Ravenshire requests the honour of your presence at the celebration of his engagement to Lady Sophia Beaumont. For several seconds, Amelia couldn't breathe. She read it again, then a fourth time. The words never changed. Engagement, Lady Sophia Beaumont, not Amelia. Not the woman who had spent 7 years loving him. Not the woman who had spent 7 years waiting for him. Her. A knock sounded at the door. Miss Whitmore. Amelia quickly folded the invitation. Come in. Her maid entered carrying fresh flowers. The moment she saw Amelia's face, her smile disappeared. Miss Amelia. Amelia forced herself to smile. I'm fine. The lie sounded weak, even to her. The maid's eyes drifted toward the invitation lying on the desk. Understanding dawned immediately. Oh, the entire kingdom had been expecting this announcement for weeks. Everyone except Amelia, apparently. Would you like me to bring tea? The maid asked gently. Amelia nodded because speaking suddenly felt impossible. Once alone again, she looked toward the window. 7 years. She had given him 7 years. The painful part wasn't the engagement. The painful part was realizing she wasn't even surprised. The first time Nathaniel told her to wait, she was 19. He had taken her hand during a spring garden party and smiled. Not yet, Amelia remembered laughing softly. Not yet. Nathaniel squeezed her fingers. One day. Back then, one day sounded romantic. Back then, one day sounded close. Back then, Amelia still believed promises meant something. Now she understood. One day was simply another way of saying never. That evening, the engagement announcement spread throughout the capital. Newspapers printed special editions. Noble families hosted celebrations. Everyone discussed the future, Duke and Duchess of Ravenshire. By sunset, Amelia received 6 letters. The first 5 expressed sympathy. The 6th came from Nathaniel himself. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Amelia, I hope you hear this news from me before you hear it from others. There are responsibilities I cannot ignore. You understand that better than anyone. I value our friendship more than I can express. I hope you'll attend the celebration. It would mean a great deal to me. Nathaniel. Amelia stared at the letter in disbelief. Friendship. After 7 years, after countless evenings together, after whispered promises and stolen moments. He called it friendship. She laughed, then immediately burst into tears. The following evening, Amelia stood inside her bedroom preparing for the engagement celebration. Her maid looked horrified. You cannot seriously be attending. Amelia adjusted an earring. Why not? Because half the kingdom knows you loved him. That wasn't the problem. The real problem was that Nathaniel knew too. Which is exactly why I should attend, Amelia replied quietly. I'm not giving them the satisfaction of watching me hide. An hour later, she entered Ravenshire Manor. The ballroom glittered with wealth. Crystal chandeliers illuminated hundreds of nobles. Music drifted through the room. Servants carried trays of champagne. Everything looked beautiful, and Amelia hated it. Immediately conversation softened as people noticed her. Arriving had been a mistake. She could feel their pity. She could hear their whispers. That's Amelia Whitmore. The poor thing. 7 years. Imagine waiting that long. She lifted her chin and continued walking. Then she saw him. Duke Nathaniel Ravenshire stood near the centre of the ballroom, speaking with guests. Tall, handsome, charming. The same man she had loved since she was 19. His dark hair was perfectly styled. His smile looked effortless. And beside him stood Lady Sophia Beaumont. Beautiful, blonde, wealthy. Everything a future duchess was supposed to be. Nathaniel noticed Amelia almost instantly. His expression brightened. He actually looked pleased to see her. The realization hurt. Amelia, he crossed the room toward her. She hated that her heart still reacted to his voice. Your Grace. His smile softened. You came. Of course she came. How else could he prove to himself she would always be there? I received your invitation. Something unreadable flashed across his face. Then he offered his arm. Walk with me. Amelia should have refused. Instead, she followed him onto a nearby terrace away from the crowd. The cool evening air felt wonderful compared to the suffocating ballroom. For several moments, neither spoke. Finally, Nathaniel sighed. I've been worried about you. Amelia almost laughed. Have you? He frowned. Of course. That's kind. The words carried more bitterness than she intended. Nathaniel noticed immediately. Amelia. There was that tone again, the one he always used whenever she became difficult, the one that silently asked her to be patient, to understand, to wait. She was tired of it. Did you ever intend to marry me? The question escaped before she could stop it. Nathaniel froze completely. For the first time all evening he looked uncomfortable. Good. Amelia waited. The silence stretched. He looked away first. Things are more complicated than that. There it was. Not yes, not someday, not I wanted to. The answer she had spent 7 years avoiding. Amelia nodded slowly. Her heart broke with surprising calm. I see. Nathaniel stepped closer. Amelia. No. She smiled sadly. It's all right, and somehow it was, because for the first time she finally understood. He wasn't choosing Sophia over her. He had simply never chosen her at all. Music drifted from the ballroom behind them. Nathaniel studied her carefully. You're upset. The statement almost made her laugh. Of course she was upset. He had just shattered 7 years of hope. I'll be all right. His shoulders visibly relaxed. That hurt more than anything. He genuinely believed she would recover. He genuinely believed everything could remain the same. Then he said the words that changed everything. I hope this doesn't affect our friendship. Friendship. Amelia stared at him. Suddenly she saw him clearly. For years she had mistaken comfort for love, attention for commitment, promises for plans. Nathaniel didn't want to marry her, but he didn't want to lose her either. He wanted her exactly where she had always been, waiting, ready, available, safe. Amelia smiled politely. Congratulations on your engagement, Your Grace. Then she turned and walked away. Nathaniel watched her leave, but he wasn't worried. Why would he be? For 7 years, Amelia Whitmore had always come back. And as he returned to his celebration, smiling guests and congratulations surrounding him, the Duke never noticed the gentleman approaching Amelia from across the ballroom. Nor did he notice the quiet conversation that followed, because if he had, he might have realized something important. For the first time in 7 years, Amelia Whitmore was no longer waiting. The first person to make Amelia smile that night wasn't Duke Nathaniel Ravenshire. It was the man he never considered a threat. Earl Sebastian Hawthorne escorted her out of the ballroom and into the cool evening air, without asking questions, without offering sympathy, without pretending he understood how she felt, and somehow that made it easier to breathe. They walked in silence toward the waiting carriages. The music from Nathaniel's engagement celebration faded behind them. Amelia stared at the palace steps. "Thank you," she said quietly. Sebastian glanced at her. "For what?" "For not looking at me the way everyone else did." A faint smile touched his lips. "Like a wounded animal?" Despite everything, Amelia laughed softly. "Something like that." Sebastian opened the carriage door for her. "I've never understood why people think pity is comforting." Amelia paused. "And what do you think is comforting?" "Honesty." The answer came immediately. She looked at him for a moment, then climbed inside. Sebastian joined her moments later. The carriage rolled away from Ravenshire Manor. For several minutes neither spoke. Amelia was grateful for it. She was exhausted. Exhausted from pretending, exhausted from hoping, exhausted from watching the man she loved celebrate an engagement to someone else. "I heard about the announcement this morning," Sebastian said finally. Amelia looked out the window. "So did the rest of the kingdom." He nodded. "For what it's worth." She glanced toward him. "Yes? I think he's a fool." The words startled her, not because they were cruel, because they were sincere. For the first time all day, someone wasn't asking how she felt. Someone wasn't offering polite sympathy. Someone wasn't pretending Nathaniel had made the right decision. Sebastian simply thought the Duke was a fool, and somehow that felt refreshing. "You shouldn't say things like that about a duke," Amelia said softly. "Probably not." His expression remained calm. "Doesn't make it less true." Amelia looked away before he could see her smile again. When the carriage finally stopped outside her townhouse, Sebastian stepped out first. Then he turned toward her. "Amelia." Something in his voice made her pause. "Yes?" For a moment he seemed to choose his words carefully. "You don't need to answer tonight." Her heart skipped slightly. "Answer what?" Sebastian met her eyes. "If I asked you to consider a future with me—" Silence settled between them. "Would you think about it?" Amelia stared at him. He wasn't proposing. Not exactly. He wasn't demanding an answer. He wasn't asking her to forget Nathaniel. He was simply asking a question, one she had never expected to hear. For once, Amelia didn't know what to say. Sebastian smiled gently. "You don't have to decide now." Then he bowed. "Good night, Amelia," and just like that, he left. Hours later, Amelia sat alone in her bedroom, staring at the city lights beyond her window. For 7 years, she had only imagined one future, Nathaniel. Now that future was gone, and for the first time in years, another possibility had appeared. The next morning, Duke Nathaniel Ravenshire felt perfectly content. Congratulations followed him everywhere. Servants smiled. Guests praised the engagement. Newspapers called it the match of the season. Lady Sophia Beaumont sat beside him during breakfast discussing wedding preparations. Everything was exactly as it should be, Your Grace. Nathaniel glanced up. A family friend had joined them. "Wonderful celebration last night." Nathaniel smiled. "Thank you." Though I was surprised by one thing, Nathaniel raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" The man sipped his tea casually. "Lord Hawthorne seemed quite attentive to Miss Whitmore." Nathaniel's smile faded slightly. "Only slightly." "Sebastian?" The man nodded. "They left together." Nathaniel laughed. "I'm sure it was nothing." And he genuinely believed that. Amelia wasn't the type to move on quickly. She loved deeply. She always had. She wasn't going to forget 7 years overnight. The conversation ended there. But for reasons he couldn't explain, Nathaniel found himself thinking about it later. That afternoon he sent Amelia flowers, white roses, her favourite. By evening the flowers returned, untouched. Nathaniel stared at them in confusion. Perhaps there had been a misunderstanding. The next day he sent a letter. No reply. 2 days later he requested a visit. A polite message arrived, declining the invitation. Now Nathaniel felt irritated, not worried. Irritated. Amelia had never behaved this way before. She always answered his letters. She always accepted his visits. She always made time for him. Then, 3 days later, he saw her. The annual spring market filled the capital with visitors. Stalls lined the streets. Musicians performed. Children ran between merchants. Nathaniel had barely stepped from his carriage when he spotted her. Amelia stood near a flower vendor wearing a pale blue dress. She looked beautiful, happier than she had at the engagement celebration, and standing beside her was Sebastian Hawthorne. Nathaniel's jaw tightened unexpectedly. He watched as Sebastian purchased a bouquet and handed it to Amelia. She smiled, not politely, not sadly. A real smile. The same smile Nathaniel hadn't seen in months. Something uncomfortable settled inside his chest. Before he realized what he was doing, he crossed the street. Amelia. She turned. Her smile faded slightly. Your Grace. Nathaniel hated the formality immediately. Sebastian inclined his head politely. Ravenshire. Hawthorne. The two men exchanged measured smiles, neither particularly warm. Nathaniel turned back toward Amelia. May I speak with you? Sebastian looked toward her. Only if you wish to. The words hit Nathaniel harder than they should have, because the choice was entirely hers now, not his. Amelia hesitated, then nodded, briefly. They walked several steps away from the crowd. Nathaniel folded his arms. You've been avoiding me, Amelia blinked. Have I? The calmness in her voice irritated him further. You returned my flowers. Yes. You ignored my letter. Yes. You declined my visit. Yes. Nathaniel stared at her. Why? Amelia looked genuinely surprised. Because you're engaged. The answer left him speechless. For several seconds neither spoke. Finally Nathaniel shook his head. That doesn't mean we stop being part of each other's lives. The moment the words left his mouth, Amelia's expression changed. Not anger, not sadness, understanding. And somehow that felt worse, because for the first time she saw exactly what he had expected. She was supposed to stay. She was supposed to keep waiting. She was supposed to remain exactly where he left her. And for the first time in 7 years, Amelia Whitmore had decided not to. For the first time in 7 years, Amelia Whitmore had decided not to wait. And Duke Nathaniel Ravenshire had no idea what to do about it. He stood in the crowded market watching her walk away beside Sebastian Hawthorne. The strange discomfort in his chest refused to disappear. Your Grace? Nathaniel blinked. A merchant was waiting for an answer. My apologies. But his attention remained fixed on Amelia. She laughed at something Sebastian said. The sound carried faintly through the afternoon air. Nathaniel couldn't remember the last time he had heard her laugh like that. For some reason it bothered him. 2 weeks later the kingdom received another surprise. Newspapers across the capital carried the same headline. Earl Sebastian Hawthorne announces engagement to Lady Amelia Whitmore. Nathaniel read the announcement twice, then a third time. He actually laughed. Impossible. His secretary frowned. Your Grace? Nathaniel tossed the newspaper onto his desk. She's angry, that's all. The secretary wisely remained silent. This is her way of moving on. Nathaniel stood and walked toward the window. It won't last. Because it couldn't. Amelia loved him. She always had. Everyone knew that, including Amelia herself. Or at least Nathaniel thought so. The following evening he attended a charity gala in the capital. He expected the engagement rumours to disappear the moment he arrived. Instead, they intensified. Have you heard about Hawthorne? Apparently, He's been courting her seriously. The wedding may happen before autumn. Nathaniel's smile grew thinner with every conversation. Then he saw them. Amelia entered the ballroom wearing a silver gown. Sebastian stood beside her. His hand rested lightly against her back. Not possessive, not controlling, protective. They looked good together. The realization irritated Nathaniel more than it should have. "Your Grace." Amelia curtsied politely. His stomach tightened at the distance in her voice. "Lady Amelia." Sebastian offered his hand. "Ravenshire." Nathaniel shook it reluctantly. Then his eyes drifted downward. A ring glittered on Amelia's finger, a real engagement ring. Not gossip, not a rumour. Reality. For the first time, Nathaniel felt something dangerously close to panic. "Excuse us," Sebastian said calmly. "We're due on the dance floor." And just like that, they walked away. Nathaniel watched them dance together for the entire song. He hated that. The following morning he sent another letter. No reply. He sent another bouquet. Returned. He requested another meeting. Declined. Each rejection felt slightly worse than the one before, because Amelia wasn't being cruel. She wasn't trying to punish him. She was simply moving on, and somehow that hurt more. A week later, Nathaniel finally cornered Sebastian outside Parliament. "We need to talk." Sebastian looked completely unsurprised. "About Amelia?" Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "About your engagement," Sebastian nodded. "Very well." The two men moved into a nearby private room. Silence settled between them. "Do you love her?" Nathaniel asked immediately. Sebastian smiled slightly. "That's an interesting question coming from you." Nathaniel ignored the comment. "Answer it." For a moment, Sebastian studied him. Then he said quietly, "I've loved her for 5 years." The room fell silent. Nathaniel stared at him. 5 years? Sebastian nodded. "I simply respected the fact that she loved someone else." The words landed like a punch. 5 years. While Nathaniel kept Amelia waiting, someone else had quietly loved her enough to step aside. Sebastian rose from his chair. "The difference between us, Ravenshire," his expression remained calm, "is that when I realized what Amelia meant to me, I intended to marry her." Then he left. Nathaniel sat alone for a long time afterward. For the first time, a thought entered his mind. What if Amelia really was gone? The answer arrived sooner than expected. 1 month before the wedding, Nathaniel attended another social gathering. He found Amelia standing alone on a garden terrace overlooking the city. The sight of her still affected him. "Amelia," she turned. "Your Grace." Again that title, a wall between them. "Must you keep calling me that?" A faint smile touched her lips. "What would you prefer?" Nathaniel didn't answer. Because he didn't know, he stepped closer. "Are you happy?" The question surprised both of them. Amelia looked toward the city lights. "I'm peaceful." For some reason, that answer hurt more than if she had said yes. Nathaniel swallowed. "Do you love him?" Silence followed. Amelia glanced down at the engagement ring on her finger. Then she looked back up. "I don't know yet." Hope exploded inside his chest. Then she continued. "But he chose me." The hope died instantly. Because that was the entire point, wasn't it? Sebastian chose her, publicly, clearly, without hesitation. Everything Nathaniel never did. Amelia's eyes softened slightly. "For 7 years, Nathaniel, I kept waiting for you to decide I was worth choosing." The words struck harder than any accusation, and one day I realized something. Nathaniel couldn't look away. "What?" A sad smile appeared on her face. "The right person doesn't need 7 years." Then she walked away, leaving Nathaniel alone with the truth. The wedding arrived 6 weeks later. Hundreds of guests filled St. Augustine Cathedral. Flowers lined the aisles. Sunlight poured through stained glass windows. The entire kingdom seemed determined to witness the marriage. Nathaniel wasn't supposed to be there. He came anyway. He stood near the back, hidden among the crowd, and watched Amelia walk down the aisle. She looked beautiful, not because of the dress, not because of the jewels, because she looked certain. There was no hesitation, no sadness, no longing, just peace. Sebastian waited at the altar. His eyes never left her. The ceremony began. Nathaniel told himself there was still time. Time to stop this. Time to tell her how he felt. Time to fix everything. But as he watched Amelia smile at another man, a terrible realization settled over him. He didn't love her because she was leaving. He loved her because she had always been there, and he never noticed her value until she was gone. The vows were exchanged, the rings placed upon their fingers. The priest smiled. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Applause erupted throughout the cathedral. Nathaniel closed his eyes. The opportunity was gone. After the ceremony, he watched from a distance as Amelia and Sebastian climbed into their carriage. Crowds cheered. Flowers filled the air. Happiness surrounded them. A footman approached quietly. "Your Grace." Nathaniel never looked away from the carriage. "Yes?" The footman hesitated. "Should we return home?" For several seconds Nathaniel remained silent. He watched Amelia laugh at something Sebastian said. He watched the carriage begin moving. He watched the woman he had taken for granted disappear down the road forever. Then he whispered the words that came far too late. "I thought she would always wait." The carriage never stopped. She never looked back. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more emotional royal romance stories filled with heartbreak, regret, redemption, and unforgettable endings. And tell me in the comments, if you were Amelia